All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilman Rory Lanceman, and welcome to my ninth COVID-19 Town Hall. We do enjoy this time together, but we also look forward to the day when we don't need to have these town halls at all. That was Sarah Bareilles singing opening up our town hall on the subject of reopening. I'm very proud to represent the neighborhoods of Kew Gardens Hills, Pominock, Alechester, Fresh Meadows, Hillcrest, Jamaica Estates, Briarwood, Parkway Village, Jamaica Hills, and Jamaica. And no, I am not really conducting this town hall from in front of my old elementary school, PS 164 in Kew Gardens Hills. That is my virtual background. I hope you are receiving our daily COVID-19 email updates and seeing them on Facebook. If you are not and wish to sign up, there is a link to sign up on my COVID-19 information webpage on my City Council website. That's council.nyc.gov. You'll find me and you'll find my webpage. Sign up for our daily email. It really is very informative. My COVID-19 information page also has an archive of daily emails and town halls since the onset of the pandemic. Our district office is open for business virtually. Nobody's there, but the phones and emails all get forwarded to my terrific staff. So you can call us with any problems, issues, questions, concerns, suggestions that you have at 718-217-4969. You can email us at rlanceman@council.nyc.gov. You can tweet at us at Rory Lanceman, or you can send us a message via Facebook. If you want to get to us, it's easy to get to us, and we will do our best to help you and to solve whatever issue you're having. Now, Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio have said phase one of reopening New York City will be this Monday, June 8th. The 5 boroughs, we are the only region in New York State that has yet to partially reopen under the governor's unpause plan. The plan divides the state into 10 regions and tracks 7 metrics, all of which must reach specific benchmarks prior to beginning the path to restarting. The metrics were designed to ensure the infection rate is sufficiently low, the healthcare system has the capacity to absorb potential resurgence in new cases, that diagnostic testing capacity is sufficiently high to detect and isolate new cases, and that robust contact tracing capacity is in place to help prevent the spread of the virus. New York City is in the clear on 5 of 7 metrics. We're still short on the number of available hospital beds and active contact tracers. So we're 5 for 7. That said, it is unclear if the events of the past week will push back Monday's expected unpause. Now, the mayor said this morning that reopening Monday is still on. The governor, however, was non-committal. I hope and I assume that these decisions will be made on the science, on the merits, and we will reopen as soon as possible, but not rush our reopening because we don't want to go back to where we were just a month or so ago. For businesses, phase 1 reopening includes construction, agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. Not a lot of agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting in Queens, I got to acknowledge. Retail limited to curbside or in-store pickup, manufacturing, and wholesale trade. Religious gatherings will still be limited to 10 people or less, and key elements of reopening in compliance with state regulations include limiting your staff to 1 employee per 250 square feet for indoor work and ensuring a distance of at least 6 feet between them, creating and posting a COVID-19 health and safety plan, training staff on state-issued safety guidelines, screening employees for COVID-19 symptoms each day, providing personal protective equipment to staff, adhering to CDC hygiene and sanitation requirements, And for retail, in-store pickup is defined as a customer placing an order for specific items by phone or internet in advance, then collecting the order at the retail location. The retail location must abide by physical distancing requirements, which will prohibit occupancy within the location to no more than 50% of the maximum occupancy, including both employees and customers. Customers are only allowed on the premise to retrieve their prearranged order, not to browse or place an in-person order. And customers must maintain 6 feet of space from others and wear a face covering. Phase 2 of reopening will begin 4 weeks after Phase 1 begins, as long as all 7 metrics are still met. Now, this afternoon, we have some great panelists who are joining us. We had wanted a mix of government officials, which is us, the business community, a couple of different perspectives from the business community, and from faith leaders and the faiths that are mainly represented in my district, because one of the questions that we get almost more than any other is related to people's permission, ability to worship and to attend religious services. And so we have representatives from the Muslim community, the Jewish community, and the Protestant community. We had a representative from the diocese, the Catholic community, but he had an emergency at the last minute and cannot join us. And actually, the representative from the diocese was former head of the New York City Emergency Management, Joe Esposito. So I certainly understand that his expertise and talents might get called away at the last moment. But we've got a great group of panelists. So now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our panel and ask each representative, each person, to speak for 3, 4, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever you want. Tell us how you've been doing, or in the case like the Chamber of Commerce, how the business community has been doing, what preparations they're making for this new phase of reopening, and what people can expect in terms of how Monday might look different than today. I'm going to go through our panelists, and then we'll call them in order. We have Neil Wagner, who is the Business Service Program Manager from the Queens Chamber of Commerce. I'm very glad to have him here. His boss, Tom Gretsch, was going to be here, but he is testifying before the City Council this afternoon. Jennifer Furioli, who is the Executive Director of the Jamaica Center Business Improvement District at the start of my district in downtown Jamaica. We have Imam Shamsi Ali, who is the Director of the Jamaica Muslim Center in Jamaica Hills, Queens. Rabbi Chaim Schwartz, who is the Executive Director of the Vad Arabbonim of Queens. And we have Reverend Chris De La Cruz, who is the Associate Pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Jamaica, also in downtown Jamaica. Let me just we're going to start with Neil, but let me just let those who are our audience know that if you want to ask a question and you are on the Zoom, at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there is a Q&A function. Hit the Q&A function, ask your Q, and we'll try to get you in line to speak and get an A. If you are dialing in, you can you can text. You can't do it via the screen, obviously. You can text your question to Sam Goldsmith, who's the behind-the-scenes moderator of this Zoom town hall. His text is 347-498-4826, 347-498-4826, and his email is cd24sam@gmail.com, as in Council District 24, cd24sam@gmail.com. And when we get to the Q&A after the panelists have spoken, Sam will put up a panel slide on the screen for people to know what to do. With that, it is my pleasure to welcome and to introduce Neil Wagner, who, as I said, the Business Service Program Manager for the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Neil, welcome. You're up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. And Councilman, thank you for inviting me at the last minute here. Really do appreciate it. As the Councilman said, my name is Neil Wagner. I'm the Business Service Program Manager at the Queens Chamber of Commerce. So I run all of our state-funded economic development programs. So the Queens Chamber of Commerce, a little bit about our organization. We're the oldest business organization in Queens. We represent over 1,100 members, and through them, 100,000 employees across the borough. Our three things that we always strive to do are to educate our members, connect them to the resources they need, and advocate for them and always be there for them whenever they need it. And really the last 10, 12 weeks for everybody, it's really been a time where we've needed to do that. Traditionally our organization, we're hosting a bunch of events, at the Bull of the Center in Jackson Heights where we're at, or we're doing things all around the borough. But now we've had to shift all of that content into something, digitally like this. We've had a bunch of webinars, a bunch of meetings across Zoom and WebEx and every other platform you can imagine. We've been able to host events with the entire Queens congressional delegation, some folks from the City Council, the Lieutenant Governor's office, and a bunch of other business leaders throughout the borough. And our main goal is just to then getting information for everybody, getting the right information into their hands that they need during this time. So, right now, some other things that we're doing to kind of help people or business leaders through Queens, we're shifting our economic development tool, Queens Best, which is a website that we had put together to help promote restaurants throughout the borough, and we've now used that as a tool to help let people know about the businesses that are still open, how to get in contact with them, how to place an order through DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever the platform might be. We've seen a lot of businesses step up and really help the community. So we started doing a Queens Chamber Business of the Week, which has been kind of fun to shine a little light on the people that are doing some good right now. So just for anybody out there, if you have a business that you want to see get some recognition, please send your nominees to me at info@queenschamber.org. That's kind of all I have for right now.
It's got to happen at least once at town hall where I talk and I'm still muted. So with that, we're now going to hear from Jennifer Curioli, who is the Executive Director of the Jamaica Center Business Improvement District. Jennifer, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. So we are one of New York City's oldest business improvement districts. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary in November. Council member spoke at our anniversary. Thank you. It was great to have you there. And we represent a long swath of Jamaica Avenue from Sutphin to 169th Street and about 400 businesses. This has been a challenging time for us and for all business districts. Fortunately, I will say that New York City has a really wonderful cohort of economic development organizations, including the Chambers of Commerce and all of the 76 business improvement districts that immediately banded together. And so in the background, we've been exchanging information and best practices and ideas. And I would say, especially at the beginning of this process, when there seemed to be new directives coming out every day, every hour, it was, like drinking from a fire hose for the businesses and for us organizations as well. And so a lot of what we did for the past few months was trying to stay on top of all of that information that was flowing quickly regarding financing, PPP, EIDL grant, safety guidelines, OSHA guidelines, anything like that. We were trying to quickly understand, synthesize, and then communicate. So our website, jamaica.nyc, and the websites of many business improvement districts and other similar organizations now has a special COVID-19 resource page where we have divided all of this pertinent information into a one-stop shop. We want to make it as easy as possible for our businesses to find the information they need quickly. We also pick up the phone and answer a lot of questions for those businesses as well. And then Jamaica is very fortunate to actually have several organizations with business counselors. So we direct those businesses to those counselors. What I'm working on now, and it's funny, what I was starting to work on before all of this happened was a resiliency plan for our district. And I know we're in the thick of this now, but this is not going to be the last time that we deal with something like this. Right before coronavirus came, we actually had a bomb threat on Jamaica Avenue that closed down half of that avenue. And, you know, in a year, it's going to be a steam pipe explosion or something else. And so to me, this was just a reminder how important it is for businesses to have continuity plans, how important it is for business improvement districts to have continuity plans. And so while we are working in the relaunch and rebuilding phase, I'm also thinking about planning for the next disaster as well. And I encourage any businesses that are watching this to also think ahead to the future. And there's a lot of resources already that are out there to help you plan for that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So now it's my pleasure to introduce a dear friend and someone who I've known, Imam Shamsi Ali, before I was an elected official, and really been a tremendous civic leader in our community. So Imam Shamsi Ali from the Jamaica Muslim Center, could you tell us, and particularly our Muslim attendees, how things have been going? I know the entirety of Ramadan was during the coronavirus crisis. A lot of decisions had to be made, and you know, hopefully things are opening up. But what can you tell us about how the community's been doing, and what community members might expect starting, you know, Monday or in the weeks to come?
Sure. Thank you so much, Councilman Lansman, for this opportunity. Once again, you have been so dearly friend to our community, and if I have to mention, you know, we have a great achievements.
Sam, Imam Ali is still.
Oh yeah, yes.
There we go.
So, okay, so thank you again, Councilman, for this opportunity. Such an honor to join our honorable panelists. And thank you for having a great friend to our community. You have helped us, you know, making the street in front of the masjid one way, and then also turn the name into JMC Way, and also the elderly home that we have at the community, also because of your work. And so on behalf of the community, we thank you so very much for, you know, such a helpful work that you have done for us. There is no doubt that members of our community are very willing to come back and worship God in the houses of worship. But before talking about this, let me introduce myself to our panelists and the audience as well, that I'm the director of Jamaica Muslim Center and Imam. Jamaica Muslim Center is possibly one of the largest community-based centers in the United States, particularly in New York City. We have over 5,000 members, and in our annual gatherings we have even 10,000 people gather on the field. We have approximately every Friday service over 1,000 people. On our daily congregational prayer, we have approximately 300 to 400 people. We have sisters classes, we have youth programs, we have interfaith programs, we have a lot of, and we have a full-time schools. We have a full-time school from kindergarten to high school called Al-Ma'mur School, and we have also a special traditional school we call Midrash in the Jewish community. We call that Madrasa in Arabic language also in our community. Since the beginning of this pandemic, we have closed our mosque for any public gatherings, and we obey the staying home protocols, or social distancing protocols. We don't organize our Friday services. Although we organize virtual sermons every Friday, we didn't have any activities during the month of Ramadan that we consider is the most important month for the Muslims to come together as a community. We didn't do anything, no nightly prayer. There is not even Eid, which is one of the most important celebrations in the religion, and that is the end of Ramadan. And that is because we try to obey as much as we can the distancing, social distancing protocols. And so now, since our attention had been shifted, and of course this is one of the issues, that our attention had been shifted to another problem we are facing at these days, but also because we see the good signs that it's the coronavirus has become, down and slow. So we are very happy and looking forward to see the opening. But even though we must, we are committed that the first and the most important is our well-being and the safety of our community. And secondly, we are all on the same boat. We want to fight together collectively, against this virus. So we are still very, with all precautions that we have, we are looking forward to the opening. But even, let's say, we are opening this Monday, we are thinking of limiting ourselves in attendance. It depends on how we are going to ask the experts, and also according to the regulations, of course, we are following. So we are going to limit the numbers. Secondly, the distance of 6 feet, of course, we have to observe. Also, we are going to prepare hand sanitizer on the doors of the mosque. And we encourage everybody to have their own prayer mat. And everything is possible, to take as any step as a part of our precautions to make sure that everyone is safe. And we are going to have someone to enforce all this. We are going to have our own security personnel, and well, God wills, we are going to work very closely with the local prison as well. So again, we are preparing ourselves, but at the same time, we are very much have in mind every possible precautions, because we know that this virus is not going away, even though we feel that it's going down, but the virus is still around. So we are going to be very careful, because our people's safety and our neighbor's safety is even more important than anything else. Thank you, Councilman Lansman.
Thank you, Imam. Next is Rabbi Chaim Schwartz, who's the Executive Director of the Vad Harabbonim of Queens. And we two have known each other for a long time through various versions of Rory Lansman. Rory Lansman, the councilman, Rory Lansman, the assemblyman, Rory Lansman, the private citizen, Rory Lansman, the community board member. But you, sir, have been a constant. The leader of the Vad Harabbonim of Queens, the day-to-day operations. So, Rabbi Chaim Schwartz, please introduce yourself. Tell us, what Jewish community, the Orthodox community, has been seeing and living through, and some of the issues that you've had to address, and how you think those things are going to evolve in the next couple of weeks. Sam, can you unmute him? I think, Rabbi, you've got to touch something.
There we go. I got it. Okay. Thank you very much, Councilman. I just want to thank you for hosting this meeting. And yes, thank God we've been friends for many, many years. A wonderful, wonderful friend of our community. And always fun to engage with at any time of the day or night. I also am very honored to be here on the panel with the Imam Ali and Pastor Cruz and Neil and Jennifer, and of course your great staff to put this together. Listening to Imam Ali, it's we have a lot in common as it comes to worship. Of course, worship in both of our faiths is extremely. I haven't heard from the pastor yet, but I'm sure he'll echo the same thing. It's extremely central to our lives, and the challenge that we've been dealing with in terms of the religious observance has been praying with the quorum. As you know, we pray 3 times a day. And our synagogues have been closed basically since March 12th, which was March 13th, which is a Friday, right after the holiday of Purim. And it's been a subject of intense discussion in our community, how, and if we should reopen our synagogues. And some synagogues have opened up already. I don't know if you remember, but Governor Cuomo, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, out of the blue, he allowed having prayer gatherings of 10 people. So at that time, there were synagogues that opened up with social distancing, and of course with the necessary precautions of sanitizer and making sure that people weren't sitting next to each other, and all the things that come with it. Bringing prayer books from home, not allowing use of the communal prayer books in the synagogue. Some synagogues did not open. Some synagogues wanted to wait the 2 weeks, like type of a quarantine period, just to make sure that everything was on the everything was good on the up and up with the virus, and making sure that it had at least started to go down. But I can tell you that the religious observance and not praying with the synagogue and not praying with all the excuse me 1 second. The synagogue and not being with community has had a terribly detrimental effect to the religious life, but also to the emotional aspect of our community. Prayer and religious observance and religious communal prayer together is something which is central to all of our faith, and it's been something which has had a real effect on trying to get through this pandemic. I guess maybe we didn't realize how much of an effect prayer had on us, and praying with the 10 people, with the minyan as we call it, and not to mention our schools and the kids having to learn at home. But that's really what we've been dealing with as a VAD, as an Orthodox rabbinical organization. We've been dealing with the how to put our shuls back together, how to put our synagogues back together, how to come together and pray, and how to do it in the safest way. And thank God, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen that our community has been able to really stick to the rules and abide by what the guidelines are. We've just gone through the holiday of Shavuot, which comes 7 weeks after the holiday of Passover, and thank God our communities have come through and able to really stick to the guidelines that we've had to. So that's one aspect of, and I'll make it short, but that's one aspect of what we've been dealing with as a community. We've also been dealing with as a community. There are a lot of different religious practices that entail having to leave the house and having to, go to other places. And we've been, as rabbis, we've been dealing with these questions that we've never had to deal with before. We had the holiday of Passover, which is very unique to the circumstances of COVID, because you had people that Passover is a holiday where we all get together. I'm with my parents every year. I remember being with my grandparents for the Seder as a child growing up. And here we told our elderly and we told our children that they're not allowed to come. I have a married son, and he was a newlywed, and making Passover and getting the house ready and cooking all the food, and it's a different type of food. There's no bread. You have to basically start from scratch. That was a challenge that we had to deal with as rabbis, how to guide our community in the different laws of Passover, the different laws of koshering, different laws of cooking that people really were not familiar with. So, from the clergy end of it, it's been really a time where we've had challenges that we've never been faced before. Thank God our community has come through with their flying colors, and we really look forward to the reopening on Monday of some sort of normalcy, getting back to at least on the road to where we have to get to. So I want to thank you again, Councilman, and I'll be happy to take any questions down the road. And thank you again, all the panelists, for your participation.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi. And our third representative from the faith-based world is Reverend Chris De La Cruz from First Presbyterian Church, and the senior pastor there. I'm not sure if that's his official title, but the guy in charge, Reverend Patrick O'Connor, has been a partner on many projects, including the affordable housing that they're developing, the issue of there was going to be a testing site, a COVID testing site, then they weren't, and they were. And it's really just a pillar in the community, and he's a terrific guy. And Reverend, if you could start just by reminding us just how old the church is, because I think it goes back over a couple hundred years, right?
Oh, that's right. You can all hear me, right?
Yes.
All right. Yes. So thank you so much, Councilman. Yes, First Presbyterian Church in Jamaica is over 350 years old. It might be at 360 now, because we have a lot of these banners that they say 350. So that's why that number is in my mind. But we've been around a long time, even longer than the Declaration of Independence, if I did my math right? But I'm very grateful to be on this panel, and particularly grateful, Councilman, for having our church on. We've partnered on many things, including affordable housing. And my understanding is you were instrumental in making sure we had that COVID testing site. You had some role. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But, and thank you to all the panelists who have spoken so far. When it comes to the reopening and when it comes to just, dealing with this virus while continuing to be the church, our church community has had heavy hearts as everyone else. We've had multiple deaths in our community. A lot of folks, close to me, close to us, the deaths and infections. The associate pastor was actually infected with COVID-19 for over a month. I never had to be hospitalized, but it wasn't pretty. And so any discussion of reopening, especially in our leadership and with Reverend Patrick O'Connor, our head pastor, we carry that heavy heart with what we experience. But at the same time, even during the crisis, we were always the church. We always said what we want to do is to be who that pillar in the community that to show what we can do for each other while also being safe. So as soon as obviously the city said no religious gatherings, we immediately abided by that. At the same time, we said, well, even during this crisis, we know that people need us, and we can serve both needs in person as well as virtually. So what that looked like is, well, in person, we continued our weekly food pantry Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And then we continued our soup kitchen. Of course, we didn't do having people gather, but rather takeout on Wednesdays at 5:30, and that's still going. And then, as the councilman mentioned, we partnered with the state and with a community healthcare network and with others to have the first walkable COVID-19 testing site in the entire city. And as we know, the communities that the councilman represents, particularly as a number of folks who rely on public transit and need something place that's walkable. And so through the leadership of Reverend, our head pastor, Patrick O'Connor, and through the team, we were able to host that for many weeks. We tested over 2,500 folks through that testing site. So that's the physical. And then while virtually, we still were very active in terms of, kids I'll start off with, for worship, we did live stream worship, and our numbers, just to put it in those terms, actually increased because we had many folks maybe weren't there week in and week out seeking that spiritual yearning. In addition, we've tried to be innovative in the ways that we've reached folks. So we have small groups of folks who just, many of them older folks who may not know how to do Zoom, but they can do a phone call. And you have 20 plus folks in 4 or 5 different groups who were able to just go on phone call, and they pray with one another, and they study scripture. And in addition, we had many leaders officially assigned just to make phone calls to members of the church to say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And with our youth programming, we've had Zooms for everyone from kindergarten all the way through high school. And we've tried to utilize some innovative, relatively innovative techniques, such as, we've had Bible studies on YouTube. That's my son in the background if you hear anything, but I hope you could still hear me. And what's nice, by the way, I also have a fake background, so you didn't see him trying to climb up this before. But in addition, we've had, so like, for example, tonight, we have a Facebook Live on Black Lives Matter that our young adults are hosting. And so we've been trying to do a both end. How can we still do what we do in new and fresh ways and reach people, differently? And so, I mentioned that all to say, so as we think about reopening, whatever that means, I mean, first, we will, I always like to say personally is, we were never closed. It's just that, this one aspect of the building was closed, right? But we've always tried to be the church for all people. And so as we consider opening, so we have tonight even, we're having a meeting, and we've been having meetings for the past month of just whenever that opening of worship occurs, what will that look like? It's not going to look like February 1st. It's not going to look like, all the people just coming in. We're going to have people coming in stages. We're going to encourage vulnerable folks not to come because we have our live stream. We're going to have everyone required to wear face masks. We've already had people come in to do massive sweeps in terms of cleaning of both our sanctuary and then also our community center. We're going to have hand sanitizers all over for worship, and that, so there's that, and we're not even thinking about that until July at the earliest, right? And we're going to follow all the rules and regulations.
Reverend, let me jump in on that, because that raises what was one of our first questions. So let me do that.
Sure.
And I'll ask to you, and then the rabbi and the imam,
Yes.
and then
Sure.
get to the question. What can the government do to make your reopening and coming back to life, even if it is over the course of several months and phases, what can the government do to assist your community, not your community broadly, I mean specifically, like the church, the schools, the mosque? What can the government do? What help do you need to help you reopen safely?
Sure, I'll start with that question and then, give to other folks. I'll say that the first and foremost, which I hope and trust is happening, is that the guidelines of when things are opened are based off, like you've mentioned at the beginning, science and health, right? And, it's obviously weighing in all the other economic factors which affect all of us, including our own congregants. But first and foremost, if you're opening up based off of those, and because that will dictate the culture of who else opens, and that helps us be the safest we can be. And I'll just briefly add, of course, one of if you work with us in terms of letting us know exactly what are the best safety measures, whether it's resources on paper or working to see what kind of practical resources can be delivered to help, from the sanitizers to the more robust things. Like I said, we're trying to sweep that, all of our buildings, and we're going to have, you mentioned the daily testing of folks. So any resources to help with those practical safety measures will be helpful. I'll let others.
I definitely understand. Like for example. We're asking, do the guidelines still apply if the services are held outdoors? I remember when the curfew was imposed, we got calls and communication from the Orthodox community. Well, evening services are after 8 p.m. So what happens if people are walking back and forth from services? So it is important to have very, very clear guidance. I know that the governor has a clergy advisory task force, and I assume and hope that they're being consulted. Rabbi, was there anything that you got the government here? I'm just one little councilman, but what could we do to make it easier for the Orthodox community to reopen?
We have. When you're talking about from a religious standpoint, you're talking about from the other parts of the LA.
Yeah, no. From the religious standpoint, I don't mean help the businesses reopen or help people get their unemployment checks sooner. That's general. But in particular, there are things that the government could be doing better that are a particular concern, need, issue for Orthodox life.
Right. So I think the government's a little bit slow to allow the opening up of houses of worship. I think that our community, thank God, is a very, very law-abiding, listening to instructions type of community, and I think a lot of us would really like to see the houses of worship open up a little faster, and especially. And I hate to say this, I don't want to hit the hornet's nest, but when you see a lot, when you see groups getting together and protesting in the thousands, and houses of worship are not open, kind of makes you wonder, what's going on with that. And I think that's a very large concern in our community, trying to figure out what the difference is. So I'm not here to ask for that answer. I'm just saying it seems that there's a hesitance to attach importance to the congregating of people to pray, which is so central to our community. Like I said earlier, from a religious standpoint and from an emotional standpoint. We had actually a conference call for Dr. Fauci with the Orthodox Union about a month ago about getting back to our synagogues, and he kept on asking for us to pray, and he kept on emphasizing to us, and I'm sure he had this conversation with other faiths, how important it was, the prayer and the faith-based part of our community. So I think we'd like to see a little bit faster and a little bit more, with the guidelines, of course, but I think we'd like to see, a little bit quicker moving on the religious gatherings.
Yeah,
Imam Ali?
Yeah, I think from us, what we need to see is less conflicting information from the government. In the past we have seen a lot of conflicting informations, and luckily that our people, always coming to us and listening to what we say in our community. In the past month, particularly May, we have Ramadan. It's not easy for Muslims to stay home because it's really a very important month for them to come together as a community. And also at the end of Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr is a very important celebration. But luckily that our people are law-abiding and they are listening to us. And so we basically wanted to hear, an assurance from the governments, either it is safe to open or it's not safe to open. We just follow, but we need an assurance from the governments, not conflicting opinions that we listen around. Also, I just wanted to mention that during, many houses of worship are facing tremendous financial crisis, and I think luckily that in our Jamaica Muslim Center in the past, during this pandemic crisis, we're able to help more than 700 families in terms of basic foods that they need. Also, we hand out some other assistance to them, and so we are still struggling. But many houses of worship, basically their income is coming from donations, and so we are looking forward to that opening. But at the same time, we need an assurance from governments because we are listening to the governments, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you and our audience as a council member. How much we rely on our houses of worship, our religious institutions, to provide services, to channel funnel services. I don't mean religious services, I mean food, I mean helping seniors, I mean social work through our nonprofit, our religious institutions. So let me say two things. The first is, it's very important, and this is something that we will continue to fight for, to make sure that at the very least, the religious community, religious institutions are getting support on the same terms as everybody else, and it was important for us to fight to make sure that there was, in the meal distributions, for example, at the schools, that there were kosher meals and that there were halal meals, because the people with those religious restrictions need to part of New York City as well. And whatever we're going to do going forward to assist institutions, we need to make sure that religious communities are not improperly excluded from that. And if we were smart, and I hope that we will be smart, and I will try to contribute to us being smart, we will rely on our faith-based institutions to provide the kind of services that we're looking to provide, because a lot of them do it already. You know, Jamaica Muslim Center, you know, Imam, you mentioned, there's a senior citizen program there. There's a food pantry that's already there. I know the First Presbyterian Church does a tremendous amount of services with a lowercase s, you know, assisting people, not religious services. And it'd be foolish for us to not take advantage of those streams. Okay, next issue. Jennifer Farioli, Jamaica Center, did last week. There was a protest in downtown Jamaica. It was peaceful. It was orderly. People expressed themselves in my district. People expressed themselves without reservation. How are the merchants on Jamaica Avenue feeling about the current situation, and are they just champing at the bit to reopen on Monday?
It's funny, I was just on with Borough President Lee right before I got on with you, and those were the exact words I used, chomping at the bit to open, to the point that some of them have opened and they're not quite that phase one yet. So we're doing an education process right now about when they can open, but I just have such admiration for our businesses in our district. They're so strong, and when I've spoken to them on the phone, they're just so full of grace and desire to do the right thing and to follow the guidelines and to open and serve their customers. And I've seen tremendous innovation. We have a wonderful business called Meet Me Over Beauty Bar, and these women very quickly transitioned to Instagram to connect with their customer base. So these businesses are doing everything they can to stay open. They want to be part of a thriving commercial district, and they want to do things right. You're right that protest was very peaceful. We were so grateful for that. I think it was perfectly executed. I think people feel as optimistic as they can, and they feel committed to make things work.
Good to hear. All right, let's get to some questions from the audience. And our first participant is our old friend, Alan Sherman, a regular on this program. And Alan has a question about street reopening, restaurants, etc. About a week ago, I had posed the question on Facebook whether or not there are streets in our neighborhood that might reopen so that the restaurants on those streets, they would reopen without being for vehicles, so that the restaurants could have outdoor seating, et cetera, et cetera. So, Alan, give the whole full question you have about the streets, et cetera, and then we'd love to hear from Neil and from Jennifer what they think the merchants would think about that.
If I give the whole story, we'll be here forever. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
You're gonna give the 30-second version, Bubba.
30-second version. Many people feel, especially in the Kew Gardens Hills area, that closing the Main Street Service Road will hurt businesses. There are large families in our neighborhood. There are elderly. There are people who rely on their cars. I've never heard of going to church on your bicycle and sitting there. You have to be in a car. COVID-19 was tested from your car. Automobiles are more important now than ever before. Closing streets anywhere will hurt business and will hurt the people. We cannot let the far left special interests rule the majority of the people. Please don't close Main Street and leave it up to the community boards, not Corey Johnson, who doesn't live here. Leave it up to the community boards to decide which streets should be closed and when they should be reopened again.
We got it. Good. So I want to go to Neil and then Jennifer. So Jennifer, this is far from Main Street and Gardens Hills is far from anywhere, near the Jamaica downtown district. Queens Chamber of Commerce, we've got everything. There is an effort, and I'm supportive of it broadly, to find streets where it would make sense open the street, or rather close the street and let restaurants open and have outdoor seating. And I know Queens reasonably well. That might work in some neighborhoods and might not work in others. Neil, are you familiar with that effort? How are you trying to figure out where that would work? And you don't need to like opine on the Main Street and Kew Gardens Hills, but like generally.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things. It goes back to your point of it's where does it make sense to do that? You know, we are, as Jen said, we've had so many different businesses that have had to pivot or do new innovative things to be able to make some money, and we do think that, you know, opening up the streets and having people be able to eat outside would be really helpful for some businesses right now. But you know, unfortunately, it's one of those things where they might run into issues like, you know, Mr. Sherman just mentioned. So I think as long as it's something that makes sense and it's something that the, you know, DOT is good with and they can give us proper guidelines, I think that's kind of how we need to move forward, is just do that where it makes sense.
Jen, anything you could tell us? I don't know if any of the streets in downtown Jamaica would lend themselves to that, but yeah.
Right. So one of the challenges that downtown Jamaica has right now is we don't have enough sit-down restaurants. We have actually been hoping to attract more. So we're not one of those vibrant restaurant districts where this would necessarily make sense. There is a 1 to 2 block span. When this proposal started to be floated, I thought, okay, there's a 1 to 2 block span where there's a cluster of mostly Salvadorian restaurants and a Dominican restaurant where maybe that might, you know, maybe there could be sort of a little perklet. But again, my approach would be, first, I want to reach out to those businesses and say, would this benefit you? I eat at those restaurants a lot. I've noticed that while they do a good business, they often do a takeout business as is. And when I've sat in there, even before coronavirus, there was a lot of space between tables. So they may not need that. And the last thing I would ever want to do is ram something down the throats of my businesses that would be more of a hassle and a coordination for them. But we have mapped it out as a possibility. And my first step then would be to talk to those businesses. If it's desirable, then of course we would want to speak to the community board, the neighboring businesses as well, and see if that would benefit them. But you know, it's true that what works in some neighborhoods doesn't work in others, and Queens is very vehicle dependent, and the streets are used in a different sense. And so we just have to be mindful when these proposals come out. In concept, I think it's a great idea for certain neighborhoods. I'd want to be very cautious before, you know, applying that to ours.
Thank you very much. It's definitely a street by street determination.
Yep.
that has to be made. Okay. Next question is on schools, and from I think the name is Y. Zhang. So Mr. or Mrs. Zhang, Mr. or Ms. Zhang, you're up. Go ahead. You have been unmuted. Mr. or Ms. Zhang? Okay. All right. Sam, I'm going to ask those questions for you. And actually, I'm going to be the one answering, so it's convenient. The first question had to do is CUNY opening up in the fall. The answer is we don't know yet. SUNY, I believe, has made a determination that it will be opening up in the fall. My two daughters go to SUNY Binghamton, and that's what they tell me. Maybe they just want an excuse to be up in Binghamton and not home with me and my wife after 3 months. But my understanding is SUNY has made a decision that it's going to be opening up. CUNY has not yet made that decision. This was as of a couple of days ago. As for the schools, the New York City public schools, likewise, a final decision has not been made, but I happen to know that the intention is to open the schools, that there may be alternate days for kids to attend so that social distancing can be maintained. There are issues that have to be worked out, obviously, with the cleaning and maintenance of the schools. We have excellent custodians in New York City schools, but this is something that is more than what they're usually used to. So we'll make sure that they get the extra support and services that they need. But it is the unofficial intention to open the schools for the fall. Now, with that said, God forbid, we have a second wave in July, which has happened in some jurisdictions where they've opened up too early or haven't opened up smartly. Things could be different. Let me ask the faith leaders on the call. Imam Shamsi Ali, I know that you had mentioned that there are a couple of schools associated with Jamaica Muslim Center, but in terms of the schools that are run by the Muslim community, what is the plan for opening over the summer, over the fall, etc.?
It's very much depend because our
you're still muted. You're still muted.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Our full-time school basically followed the state regulations, so we just follow the state regulations. If they open up, we are going to open up as well. But in terms of our traditional midrash, it's very much depend on the situations that we are facing now. So I don't know how to answer that. But again, we are taking every step that we are taking with full precautions. Everything else, because it's about our well-being of our community and the safety of our community and our neighborhood as well.
Rabbi, what are the yeshivas looking at doing? We have a lot of, in my district in particular, but throughout Central Queens.
Right. So, I'll echo what the Imam said. We're also waiting for, state guidelines and the state direction. I can tell you that a big topic of conversation in our community, Rory, as you know, thank God we have large families. We have a lot of young children. A big topic of conversation is the day camps and the sleepaway camps. And, I can tell you, thank God, as a father of 7 children, all cooped up for the last 2.5 months, Beis Yaakov and my daughter's high school and my boys have been, learning and being instructed by the most wonderful teachers in the world. One of them happened to be my wife. But and that's been keeping the kids going. The problem now is going to be as school comes to an end and we are hitting the summer. We're in the city. The city's hot. It's the concrete jungle, as they say. And I know that the governor said that June 29th camps can open, but we're awaiting what those guidelines are for day camps. A lot of parents come to me and they say they don't know if they want to send their kids to day camps under the current situation. Who knows what those guidelines are going to look like. And then, of course, we have the sleepaway camps, which is a tremendously large part of our community. It's a very big part of the summer experience in our community. Kids going away upstate to the Catskills. We don't know anything about that yet either. I just saw right now that Dr. Fauci said it's time to start to think about reopening the schools. So I don't know what that means exactly, but of course we're going to follow the guidelines and we're going to follow whatever the state mandates and tells us to do. So, like the Imam said, we're waiting. We'd love to get them open.
Reverend, does the First Presbyterian run a school, or are there other schools that from the Presbyterian Church or Protestant community that you could tell us about?
Yeah, sure. So we don't run a school ourselves. So all I can think of, the short answer is no. From what I know from the Catholic folks who are trying to navigate this, it's pretty much echoing what the Imam and Rabbi is saying. He's trying to figure it out, take the safety precautions. So.
Got it. Okay, good. So there was a question that I said something that might have been confusing. My understanding is that phase 2, a jurisdiction is eligible for phase 2 1 month after the start of phase 1. Sam, if you can Google that, and if I'm giving out wrong information, you let me know. But that's my understanding. Someone in the Q&A, an anonymous person, so otherwise I'd let them speak, seemed to think that it was on June 22nd, the phase 2 reopening, but that's not my understanding. So, and obviously that phase 2 can't start unless the criteria for phase 2 are met, but phase 1 has to go on for at least a month. But Sam, you jump on the Zoom if that's wrong information. No problem. So let me ask just a couple more questions, and then we'll let everybody go. I actually have to go to. There's an enormous, hopefully it's an enormous rally in memory of George Floyd and the issues in connection to that at 3 p.m. at Borough Hall. So let me go back to our business folks. How does someone know if they're in the industry and a region that is permitted to reopen? You know, you have a person, they own a business, whatever it is. Like, can they reach out to your organizations? Is there a website they can go to? And do they need to ask permission, or do they need to fill out any kind of form, or like what do they have to do to pull up the gates and open up shop? Jennifer,
Yeah. So I'm going to direct people to our website. It's jamaica.nyc. And then on that website, we have a COVID-19 page. And from there, we have a whole reopening section. And you'll find the link then to the state's reopening section, which they have a wonderful tool. You can actually enter in your borough and then the type of business you are, and it'll actually pull up if you're eligible to open. And then in addition to that, depending on what phase we're in, they have a whole handy list of resources for you. So I actually printed this out. For example, for the retail, I don't know if you can see it, but they have all of the mandatory things you need to do, and then they have recommended best practices. In addition, all businesses need to, essential or not, need to have a safety operating plan. And that doesn't mean you're going to have to turn that in to anybody, but you have to have it ready and you have to have it on site. And New York State has actually made it pretty easy for you. They have a template, so you can fill it out, and a lot of it is just sort of checking off. Yes, I agree to do this, this, this. And I believe that those safety templates are even designed for particular industries. So that's where I would start. And then when you go to our website also, in that reopening section, we have links to, I want to mention that QEDC, Queens Economic Development Corporation, and Queens Chamber are doing a whole bunch of webinars that are really, really helpful about reopening, and those will answer some of your questions. And then I believe it's tomorrow, but council member, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The city is going to be launching a business restart phone hotline. As soon as we know that number, we'll post it, but I think that's going to be helpful as well.
Thank you. We will definitely include that in our daily the email blast. Neil, can you tell folks what kind of resources is available that the Queens Chamber of Commerce and guiding them through all these questions? And
yeah, sure. So we also have a spot on our website that's queenschamber.org where people can go and look up various different COVID-19 related resources that we have available. We've done a large series of webinars the last couple of weeks. All of those have been recorded and can be found on our Facebook page. We also have a number of events coming up here. We have cybersecurity for small businesses, small business navigation of COVID-19. That's on June 9th. We have a webinar on PPP and EIDL next steps on June 9th as well. We're constantly adding new webinars at our website in queenschamber.org. So I'd recommend you guys check that out. Under that COVID-19 resources tab that we have, we have lists of cleaning services that are available. We have, links to business organizations like Jen or the QEDC, like as she mentioned. Seth and Rob and that whole team, they've put together an incredible amount of resources. So I'd really encourage everyone to go to QEDC's website as well. You know, they'll be able to get you some great information. And then honestly, if you don't know where to go, you could always reach out to us at the chamber. We might not know the answer, but we can help you find someone that can tell you how to you know, get what you need. So, you know, you can contact us on our social media pages, or you can always email me. It's just nwagner@queenschamber.org, and I'll put that into the chat box here. So.
All right, excellent. We do have one hyper-local question for Rabbi Schwartz, and because I love him, I'm going to ask it to him. David Englander.
Yes.
Sam, can we bring David Englander so he can ask his question of Rabbi Schwartz? David, you're up.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Hi.
I don't know why I can't see you. Rabbi Schwartz.
Hi, how are you, Dave?
Awesome. Do you think Monday with phase 1, will they increase the minyanim from 10 people? New Jersey, you can dabble with 25 people.
Right, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe looking at the guidelines, I think it's going to stick to 10. Councilman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the guidelines say to stick to 10.
I believe it is currently 10.
And I think in phase 1 it's 10 as well.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Currently 10. Phase 1 is also
right.
going to be.
So, Mr. Englander, I wish I could tell you that we're going to have 25 people, 30 people, 100 people, but it looks like that's not changing that quickly. And, you know, what we can do, I neglected to say on this earlier that many shuls have been extremely creative in what they're doing. I know in our shul, in Kew Gardens, where I'm a member, in Congregation of Dasiram, we've staggered the minyanim, we've staggered the prayer groups. 7, like, you know, Saturday morning, 7, 8, and 9, or I think we have one at 7, and 2 at 9, one upstairs in the other room, and downstairs 10 upstairs, 10 downstairs. There's also many synagogues have had registry, Google Groups, Google Docs, where if you want to come to a specific time slot, you have to register, and you have to commit to be there, actually, because as you know, 10, we cannot pray without a quorum of 10, so you have to be there. So I think it's going to be a while until we have large groups.
That won't change till phase 2?
It doesn't look like. I don't know. Again, I can't speak for the state, but I think my councilman. I think am I correct?
I think that's the right. I think that is the correct framework. That the religious services are limited to 10. We know that presently. Phase 1 is 10. Now, just as an accommodation was made. In our current situation, to go from no services to 10, maybe somewhere in the middle of phase 1, there will be an expansion of that.
I also want to point out something that's been very interesting. I just want to share with the group here is that, you know, thank God our community is marriage is an extremely essential part of any religion, but of our religion, you know, we encourage our children to get married young. So we have a lot of weddings, and you know, and it's been a tremendous challenge. You know, weddings also require, because it's a religious celebration, it requires a minyan, it requires 10 people, and our community, I just want to tell you, has stepped up. People in our community have donated their backyards. They have large backyards. In particular, there's one fellow in particular, Kew Garden Hills, I don't want to say his name, who has a lot where you're able to accommodate with social distancing and be able to have the religious observance of having a chuppah, of having a marriage that we're used to. Of course, you know, it's not the big, you know, Orthodox weddings that you've already, you know, you're used to seeing 400 or 500 people. But, you know, I guess my mother always says that necessity is the mother of invention. So, you know, you have those people that have stepped up and given of their property, of their homes, of their backyards, to be able to accommodate that important marriage ceremony. So,
trust me, Rabbi, 20 years from now, people are gonna say, you know, during the crisis, I got married in the coronavirus lot. It's gonna be like, you know, I fought in World War II. I was in Normandy.
And I have officiated 2 marriages in the last month through Zoom, by the way. through virtual officiation. And we have done that, and I think we consider that is special, and people are just happy of that. You know, by the way, I'm talking about a virtual program that we have. You know, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have already have our Zoom, and every day. In fact, during the month of Ramadan, we have twice, basically, at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the evening, we have lectures. And even now, it's still continuing, delivering our services and lectures, sermons through Zoom and Facebook Live. We have hundreds of people attending on our Facebook, Jamaica Muslim State officials. And I'm sure that this is one of the blessings that the pandemic brought to us, because we can connect with our community even through, you know, this means. And we are going to continue this, even if we are opening, we are still to continue, because not every person can come to the mosque every time. So I think it's a good way to connect with our community, and I'm very much, you know, appreciative and thankful to God for that opportunity as well.
You know, that's a very, very interesting observation, and I think, you know, all of us have thought it at some point. You know, we've all adjusted our lives, the way we do things, in just dramatic ways, and you wonder how many of the things that we're doing now should we still do, or can we incorporate once things become, you know, normal? Certainly, you know, I would rather not have to schlep down to City Hall 5 days a week from my house in Hillcrest. You know, maybe having more meetings on Zoom is something that we should do. Obviously, each faith has to figure out the religious aspects of what that means for them and how they're going to do it. But certainly, just in terms of the day-to-day operation of our organizations, whether it's a legislature, a business, a church, a mosque, a synagogue, probably from this search things, we're gonna learn how to do some things a little differently and better that we're gonna wanna retain. Imam Shamsi Ali, you've got the last word there. I've kept you all for a little longer than I had thought.
Thank you.
I want to thank Imam Ali, the Jamaica Muslim Center, Rabbi Chaim Schwartz from the Vaad Harabonim of Queens, Reverend Dela Cruz from First Presbyterian Church, Jennifer Furioli from the Jamaica Business Improvement District, and Neil Wagner pitching in pinch-hitting ably for Tom Gretsch at the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Now, let me remind everybody who's still watching and listening, my office continues to be open for business. You can call us, 718-217-4969. You can email us at rlanceman@council.nyc.gov. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. You can go to my council website. If you need me, there's no reason you can't get me. So, everyone, thank you for participating. Stay safe, and I'll see you in person, hopefully, soon enough.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.